Hey everybody, welcome back to Turn Bark Time. I'm the Turn,
I'm the Bart.
and we're still gonna be here for a long time. Yo, what up, everybody? This is season 4, episode 12. Oh, I like to hook 'em.
Keep it PG. Episode 12.
Episode 12. It is episode 12. But first, Barker, happy 3-year anniversary. Not of our friendship, but of Turn Bark Time.
Yes. And for those of you, as we were kind of confused, we're year 3, but season 4. What we did the first year is the first season was the end of the school year when we went on the long siesta.
Yep.
Long break on the shutdown. And then we took a little break over summer and then started back up when the school year started back up again. And so that's how we get 4 seasons out of 3 years.
Correct. And that was me who was confused. Barker knew the correct answer right away when I was like, how is this possible? So thank you to our tens of followers, or tens of viewers, I should say. We have a considerable number of followers.
We have 272 subscribers on the YouTube. Thank you guys.
Yep.
We have tens of views. We almost got about 75 on the last video.
Yeah, I saw the last one was one of our better ones. We'll call it a done.
And I think we have an estimated podcast audience of 4 to 8.
Yes, solid.
That apparently spans the Atlantic Ocean into Europe, but I don't know how that works. But
yeah, I mean, you type in a wrong word and you get hooked. So
it's on the internet. That's true.
And we do have people that are always pushing our brand. Sasquatch Geoff was actually in Auburn, Washington, and was talking with the middle school social studies teacher and recommended our podcast. So thanks, Squatch.
Whoop, whoop.
Appreciate that.
I don't know if you got it today, but I got a Snapchat today from our fake niece. Shout out to Kelsey.
Well, I'm sure I did.
Who is repping her Turn Bark Time sweatshirt on Whitman's campus today.
Heck yeah.
Hoping that it would bring her good vibes for an exam that she had today. So.
Yep, that's what I love. For exam 2 and 3 of 6 this week.
Yeah. So.
Shout out fake niece. Thanks for the love.
We got you.
All right, here we go. Now, Barker, I gotta tell you, this topic threw me for a loop-de-loop. And now that I know more about it, terrifying. We are talking today about the greatest creature of all time. No, that's an embellishment. But these are Canadian super pigs.
And the dangers that they pose to America. If you took a class from me, you would know that invasive species are one of my favoriteest topics to talk about. Yeah. And as you can see on our channel, we do tend to talk about invasive species a bit. Because you would think at some point, you're supposed to learn from history.
Yeah.
But we just keep putting animals where they shouldn't and then letting them out of the cage. So I don't know. Do you guys have nutria in Puyallup?
Well, Barker, I don't live in Puyallup.
Well, no, but I know you grew up in Puyallup. I know they're not in Quincy. They can't make the mountains.
Nutria.
Does that ring a bell?
Does not.
Okay. Imagine a beaver, but it's essentially a large South American watery rat.
Okay.
That live in the swamps and dikes that protect Longview from flooding. And I was always because they're just a way of life here in Longview. Yeah. And so you would assume that they're native, but they're not. They were brought over to replace beavers when beavers were going extinct, and people were going to ranch nutria, and then textile, synthetics came out. So they just let them go. And so now there's just these big, fat aquatic rats that are just angry in Southwest Washington. And I just wondered if they spread that far north. But anyway, we're not talking about nutria today.
I think actually, because their tail isn't beaver tail, correct? It's like a flat, like a skinny, flat kind of tail,
like a rat tail.
I had to look up this picture of it. I think there's actually one that lives in the canal system in Ellensburg, at Central.
Yeah, one made it.
I swear I know I've seen that animal before in the water. I guess I call it the wilds, but
the wild canals of Ellensburg. His name is Thaddeus.
Yeah.
He is a learned nutria. But anyway, we are here to talk about Canadian super pigs. This was just something that we came across. Apparently it kind of hit the news in the fall, and we were unawares. But there is a threat of the Canadian invasion. You know, and we're not talking about Nickelback or Celine Dion or Jim Carrey or Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds is Canadian too, isn't he?
He is Canadian.
So we are talking about like super pigs. Like, so we're talking, it's really boggles the mind how you get super pigs, because it's really just wild boars crossbred with pigs, which there's 6 million like wild pigs in America that do cause, according to the USDA, $1.5 billion in crop damage a year. And those are just normal wild pigs in America. Predominantly in the South, we can trace, blame the Spanish, 1539, Hernando de Soto brought over, 13?
Yep.
I think it was 13 pigs. And after like 4 years, there was 700. And then they just kind of slowly spread across the southern states. And so, but Canada didn't get wild pigs until the 1980s. They wanted to bring them in as a meat source. And then apparently by the 2000s, like, people stopped. The demand for wild pig meat in Canada hit a wall.
What? Shocking. I could never believe. Why would the demand fall?
I don't know. Y2K didn't kill the computers. It killed the wild boar market.
God damn.
Or the domesticated boar market, whatever. Anyway, so these pigs were being bred like meat pigs. So you want them to be big, you want them to be beefy, but they got to be able to survive in Canada. They range normally between 120 to 250 pounds. The largest ever recorded is 661 pounds. That's a big pig.
Well, the goal of this was like, so I just saw that. I remember reading the poundage. The goal of that was to make them easier to shoot. Like, you were going to breed them to make them bigger. So yeah, you'd have more meat, but they were also easier to shoot and kill.
Well, as things happen, some got out, and they figured, no problemo. Those pigs will just freeze to death in the, sweet cold embrace of Canadian winter.
Now, hold on, Barker. This sounds vaguely familiar. Like, if we leave the hippos in Colombia without feeding them, they'll just die.
Yeah. Well, the difference is, I have a little bit, the article from, I think there was one from Field and Stream.
Yep.
And the Guardian was talking about how these are highly intelligent pigs. And I think that was an unintended consequence of the crossbreeding. Pigs are actually fairly intelligent animals.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. But so the pigs got out and they started breeding. And so apparently pigs reproduce fairly quickly. These particular pigs can have essentially two litters of pigs per year. It takes 114 days for their gestational period. So to be pregnant and pop out 4 to 6 piglets. And then a female pig becomes sexually mature in 6 to 8 months.
Dang. No wonder it went from 13 to 700.
Quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'll save that comment. A U.S. estimate claimed, and this was for maintaining the U.S. wild pig population, if you want to keep the numbers to what they currently are, you need to kill 75% of the population to offset the breeding. That's a lot of bacon.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to do that. Margaret, this sounds vaguely familiar. About going to war with the emus.
Right. And you figure, well, you could just shoot the pigs. These pigs, first they thought they'll get out, they're going to die in the winter. And it gets like negative 50 degrees centigrade. And for all of you people who I can't convert temperatures off the top of my head because I'm not a science teacher.
You want me to do it? Hold on.
Sure.
Hold on.
Okay.
So centigrade, so you're going to, let's see, I remember this correctly. It's 5/9. So you're going to multiply. I'm going to do a rough estimate. So you're going to divide it So negative 50 divided by half would be negative 25. You're going to add 32. So we're going to go, math. We're going to go, I'm going to go negative 57. No, 50. Yeah, negative 57. Am I off? Am I way off? I thought once it got into negatives, I got closer. Go ahead, Bart. What's the actual answer?
Let me do the math real quick with the help of the Google.
Okay. I can ask my Google.
Negative 50 degrees.
What is negative 50 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit?
Minus 50 degrees Celsius. Is
minus 58 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's go.
So there you have it. Mr. Turner can math.
I can Canadian.
You, sir, are a better man than I. Mm-hmm. So anyways, it's cold. Like colder than Central Washington cold.
Yes.
And they thought the pigs were just going to die.
Which logically, you would think, right? Like just anything in negative 58 degrees Fahrenheit or 50 degrees Celsius is going to be a lot. So
that wasn't native, right? And hasn't developed some sort of adaptation to deal with that. Well, the pigs apparently can burrow 2 meters, which in American is about 6 feet.
6 feet.
6 feet under the snow. And they prefer apparently to dig down near the sides of lakes where there are cattails, which is a plant, if you're not familiar with it. And they sit there and they insulate it and they make themselves little pigloos.
I like
and
that.
Apparently in the morning you can like fly over and see the steam coming out of their little pigloos. I mean, it's like potentially a 250-pound animal. Sounds like something out of a horror movie. It sounds like Tremors, but in Canada with snow. And so Dr. Ryan Brook, who is apparently the foremost expert on Canadian super pigs from the University of Saskatchewan, is the head of the Canadian Wild Pig Research Project. So they're the ones that have been dealing with this. The problem is that pigs and wild pigs are omnivores. They are opportunistic eaters, kind of like teenage kids. Yep. And the biggest concern ecologically is not just the crops, but they're decimating wild birds, waterfowl. They will eat ducklings and goslings. They will just gobble up them little baby chickies.
Yep.
Like Americans with peeps. But oh, you hush your mouth.
Peeps are gross, dude. Sorry. That's a different topic for a different day.
They also carry 30 different diseases and potentially could be host to 37 different parasites. So coming into contact, you should never come into physical contact with a wild pig and then eat, drink, or use tobacco products without first washing your hands. I've been on some interesting websites.
Why tobacco product? Why just that?
Because you put your hands in your mouth.
Yeah, but
touch the pig, touch the cigarette.
But don't. Okay, whatever. Don't.
Now you got pseudo rabies, man.
Oh, Jesus.
These pigs have thrived, and they now operate. They've been seen over an area of 620,000 square miles. And I was like, well, that's a big number. I don't know what I need to put that into reference to a state.
Yeah.
That's roughly the size of Alaska.
Oh.
So these pigs are not only like reproducing, but they have quite the range. And they've been seen in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta. And for all of you average Americans who don't know your Canadian provinces, those are essentially the south central Canadian provinces, the ones that are above like Montana and the Dakotas. So there's concern that some of these super pigs may have wandered across the border without stopping at a proper immigration station.
Yep.
And could potentially be in Montana, North Dakota, Michigan, or Minnesota. And, we're just kind of wondering, people have been trying to figure out how do we solve the problem? Because you always got to figure out, are we going to pull in Australia where we bring in another invasive species to kill an invasive species? Then we have a bigger invasive species problem. So the strategeries that they've used in America, we've tried to poison pigs. You put out poison feed and the pigs come and they eat it and then they die. The problem is it doesn't discriminate. So you're killing off
anything.
Yeah, you're killing anything that eats the forbidden fruit. So one of the strategies, and this is from the Wild Pig Research Project of Saskatchewan, is a program they called the Judas Pig. They trank one of them, they put a collar on it with a radio transmitter, and they essentially track it back to its
That's
pod.
so dark, but that's so dark. Oh,
And
great name. Good job.
The pigs live in pods, mostly female pods. Sometimes there's younger males, and they're called sounders. So they go back and try and find that sounder. It brings a whole new frame of reference to the Seattle Sounders soccer team.
Yes, it does.
Start slapping some wild pigs on their gear.
Yeah.
But the males live pretty much solitary. Sometimes there's essentially like bachelor groups that'll run around, and then once they get big enough, they kind of go on their own, and then they only meet up with the sounders for that 2 times a year.
Yeah.
When it's time to make little piglets. They tried recreational hunting, and that, talking about Darwinism here, the adaptation was the pigs just became nocturnal. They essentially hid during the day and waited for nightfall. There's also sorry.
No, you're good. Keep going.
An organization in Manitoba called squealonpigs.org.
So if you see one. So basically what Barker's saying is if you see a pig like that, you can report it to them, and then they can track its whereabouts from there.
Call 1-833-SPOT-PIG if you're in Manitoba.
Only in Manitoba. Do
I
not
don't know if
call
it works in
if
America.
you are in Saskatchewan. That would be weird.
But it's kind of I thought it was an interesting kind of an interesting idea. This is one of the things that came up with the putting the border on the southern, or putting the wall on the southern border. Is like, well, what about animals that migrate? Not every animal that migrates is a bird. You
Right.
have, well, here in Washington, we know about that because we built Grand Coulee Dam, and that really helped the salmon run in the northern Columbia.
Yep, made it great again.
That's sarcasm. But as there is no, like, the border between the United States and Canada, most Americans should know, or at least most Washingtonians, is the largest unsecure, like unmilitarized border in the world. So there's literally nothing but a clear cut across most of the U.S.-Canadian border that is preventing these pigs from following their noses.
Yep.
To the cornfields, wheat fields, whatever, they smell that sounds good, to keep these pigs from coming down into the United States. And I mean, we already have like 6 million wild pigs in America. Now, the Midwest and the Upper Plains are not an area that traditionally has a wild pig problem. That's mostly southeastern states. Again, ones that are more closely tied to the Spanish. But, that could change over time. And it's one of those things that you kind of expect things to stay the same way. Like growing up, you don't think about, like new animals being introduced. But here in Washington, we kind of tend to go back and forth about whether we should have reintroduced the wolves and whatnot and stuff like that. And now we're talking about, can the wolves outcompete wild pigs? And like, these wild pigs are even big enough, and they have the tusks, that they have evidence of them killing like deer and elk.
Yeah.
Those are big animals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then just think about if one of those gets into like a modern like chicken farm, chicken coop. It's a lot of chickens.
It could cause some serious havoc. So
yeah. So be ready for the call, America.
If there's one country that's going to answer with firearms, I think we got it. No, and it's interesting the more we talk about it because again, this is something it's we recognize it and it hasn't gotten destructive yet. Like one of the things I read when they were interviewing that Brooks guy and talking to him about the professor out of
Saskatchewan.
yeah,
University of Saskatchewan.
he said that it was basically it was possible for America to still like contain the population and like control it, where in Canada it's no longer possible. Like they've gone beyond the containment phase of this, and now they are at the point where it is trying to deal with the consequences of that. So here we are standing at the boundary of something that could happen, and we could react and make it and fix it. So, and again, one of the things that I kept reading was they're like, and having these pigs for hunting could be great for everybody, but that's not worth the risk of the environmental damage that it could do to our nation. Especially when you think of states like Montana, right, which are known for like their animals and stuff like that, and hunting and fishing, and to have that hog come in and destroy that would be brutal.
Well, like even like like Yellowstone.
Yes.
I mean, you come into like a national park and completely just wreck the ecosystem that we've been trying to repair and manage and keep sustainable, and then we just let something come in. So this is the one time that I guess that South Park was right and we can blame Canada, but it's just it's one of those things that we should always kind of like temper our decisions to like bring animals, or like when people are like, I just let my pet go free, and it's like, did you think about whether your pet was supposed to live in this environment ever? Again, the British bringing rabbits to like Australia.
Yeah.
Now there's a on top of the cane toads, on top of the emu, like on top of everything, there's a rabbit problem. Why were they brought? Well, they're fun to hunt.
Yeah.
Well, they also reproduce like
rabbits.
So.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I mean, it's something to kind of keep I think it's kind of a slow burn topic in America. I don't think anybody's going to campaign in 2024
on the Canadian Super Pig.
On the threat of the Canadian Super Pig, unless we run. So
I don't think we would run on that platform either.
It's free Wi-Fi and kill the Canadian Super Pigs. I'm telling you, man, it's a winner.
All right. I mean, why not?
Turn bar time 2024.
2024? I won't be old enough yet.
Oh, well, then I'll have to run. Oh, you can't be the VP then.
I mean, I technically could. We could go for a constitutional amendment on that. But
balderdash.
Yeah, I could sue in state court, or I could sue in federal court for ageism.
Yeah, I don't think we win.
I don't think so either. But that would be an interesting court case to take up. You think they'd even hear it?
No.
No? Okay.
No, I think they just laugh at us and be like, no, go away.
Okay, worth a shot. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Bark, anything else on some little Canadian squeals?
No, nothing on the Canadian squeals. I would say Ramadan Mubarak to any of my former students or current students that are Muslim. So it's I believe, based on the comments I've seen on the Instagram coming out of Kuwait, that it should be the beginning of Ramadan tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Or Thursday when we drop this. So
good, fantastic.
Wish you guys a pleasant Ramadan.
Yeah, pleasant Ramadan. So, nothing from me on my end. Hey, so we're not sure. You guys might be surprised next week if we are able to drop one. We're looking at I have conferences, so I will be at Quincy Middle School until at least 7 o'clock. So I could drop one, but I'll also be pretty tired. So we are not sure, but we're excited. We have a couple already planned out and ready to go, and we're always looking for new ideas. So feel free to fire away if you have a new idea. We're gonna start. We're gonna do some fun and crazy amendments is coming up. So these are gonna be amendments to the U.S. Constitution that failed, but people still wanted them, and I cannot wait. Mark, anything else?
Nope.
All right. Well, until next time, I'm the Turn.
I'm the Bark.
and we're going to be here a long time. Have a good night, everybody.
Be safe.
By golly, you just be well.